two women were told to kill babies by the most powerful man alive. And what they did instead changed the entire course of human history. This isn't a Hollywood script. This actually happened. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why God still talks about these two women thousands of years later, while the king who gave that order is barely a footnote. Stay with me, because this story starts small, and it gets bigger than you think. So here's where we start. Centuries before this moment, a man named Joseph had saved Egypt from a famine that could have wiped out the whole region. Egypt owed his family everything. But people forget, especially kings. A new Pharaoh came to power, one who never knew Joseph, never felt that debt. And in the time since, Joseph's small family had grown into an entire nation, living inside Egypt's borders. That's when things start to shift. Because growth makes people nervous, especially people in power. Pharaoh looks out at the Hebrew people, and here's the thought that starts eating at him. What if they turn on us? What if there's a war and they join our enemies and just walk out of Egypt? Sound familiar? Fear of losing control has started more atrocities in human history than almost anything else. And Pharaoh's fear was about to go somewhere very dark. First, he enslaves them. Brutal labor. Building cities under a desert sun. But here's the problem for Pharaoh: it doesn't work. The Hebrew people keep growing anyway. So he escalates. And this is where the story stops being about politics and starts being about survival. Pharaoh summons two women. Their names are Shiphrah and Puah, Hebrew midwives, the women who help deliver Hebrew babies into the world. And what he tells them next is the moment this story goes from uncomfortable to horrifying. When you help the Hebrew women give birth, if it's a boy, kill him. If it's a girl, let her live. Let that sit for a second. A direct order from the most powerful man on earth to commit infanticide. Now, what would you do? Because here's the thing. This isn't some abstract moral dilemma for Shiphrah and Puah. This is real. Refuse Pharaoh, and they could be executed on the spot. Obey Pharaoh, and they'd have to live with what their hands had done for the rest of their lives. There's no easy option here. No clean way out. And what they decide in this moment is about to put their lives on the line, every single night, for as long as this order stands. So what do they actually do? They keep delivering babies. And when a boy is born, they let him live. No swords. No armies. No public rebellion. Just two women, quietly, defiantly, choosing not to become murderers. Night after night, birth after birth. It's the kind of courage that doesn't make headlines. But it's about to catch Pharaoh's attention in a way they can't avoid. Word gets back to Pharaoh. The boys are surviving. His order isn't working. And now Shiphrah and Puah are standing in front of him again. Except this time, he's not just giving orders. He's furious. And he wants to know exactly why they disobeyed a direct command from the king of Egypt. This is the moment where one wrong word gets them killed. So what do they say? Here's their answer. And it's honestly brilliant. The Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women. They're strong. They give birth before we even arrive. Think about that for a second. They didn't lie about defying him. They gave him an answer he couldn't disprove. Quick thinking, under the most extreme pressure imaginable. And it works. Pharaoh has no comeback. But this is where the story stops being about two women and starts becoming about something much bigger. Because of their courage, God blesses them, gives them households, families of their own. Not because they were perfect, but because they feared God more than they feared a throne. And that decision, made quietly by two ordinary women, just bought an entire enslaved nation more time to survive. But here's what most people don't realize about this story. This isn't even the biggest part. Because Shiphrah and Puah refused to obey, the door stayed open. And through that door, one very specific baby was about to be born. A mother would place her newborn son in a basket, set him on the Nile, and trust God with his life. That baby would grow up inside Pharaoh's own palace. And one day he would come back and say 4 words that would bring Egypt to its knees. "Let my people go." His name was Moses. And none of it happens, the plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, the entire book of Exodus, without 2 midwives who decided quietly that they weren't going to obey an evil order. So think about what actually happened here. 2 women make one brave decision. That decision saves a generation of children. That saved generation produces a deliverer. And that deliverer changes the fate of an entire nation. And honestly, the entire world. Business as usual turned into survival. Survival turned into the birth of a nation. And that turned into a story God is still telling thousands of years later. That's the power of one obedient choice, made in the dark, when no one else was watching. If this story moved you, stay close, because next time, we're going to the moment that baby's mother had to let him go, and trust God with the one thing she loved most.